I've traveled to some of the fastest growing cities on the planet, and honestly, nowhere is changing as fast as India's urban hubs. But with that growth comes something you can't ignore. It's literally piling up in the streets: trash. Take Delhi, for example. It produces nearly 10,000 tons of solid waste every single day. That's more than twice the weight of the Eiffel Tower. Every single day. This didn't just happen overnight. Mumbai, for instance, was designed for just a few 100,000. It's now home to over 20 million. There aren't enough collection trucks, landfills, or recycling plants to handle the daily tidal wave of waste. And even when trash does get collected, a lot of it ends up in massive, unregulated dumps, leaking into the water we drink, and sometimes even catching fire. So why is it so hard to fix? Indian cities are expanding faster than any system can keep up. Every single minute, about 30 people leave villages and move into cities here. That means more food wrappers, more construction debris, more discarded stuff, and nowhere to put it all. Most of these places don't have proper zoning laws or long-term waste strategies. So the trash just gets dumped in empty lots, along highways or into the same rivers where people bathe and wash their clothes. The public system just can't keep up. And honestly, the private fixes haven't worked out much better. I've seen companies roll out automated bins and fancy smart tracking systems, but most of those projects crashed when maintenance costs shot through the roof, or when the bins were vandalized, broken, or just flat out stolen. In so many neighborhoods, the only reason waste even gets collected is because of informal waste pickers, people who make their living sorting through trash. They move literal tons of materials every single day, often with no safety gear, no training, and zero official support. What's crazy is the contrast. I've walked through India's high-tech hubs, places where engineers are literally building satellites and developing AI, only to turn a corner into slums where garbage flows freely through the alleys. Even Bengaluru, the Silicon Valley of India, struggles so badly with waste that people sometimes just burn piles of trash to stop them from taking over. Urban India is full of these jarring images: gleaming shopping malls right next to clogged drains, luxury towers overlooking trash heaps. It's like stepping into a scene from Mad Max. The visual clash is intense, and it's not just what you see. It's the smell in the air, the haze from burning, the constant buzz of flies. Fixing this isn't going to happen with quick hacks. It's going to take serious investment in sanitation tech, strict enforcement of dumping laws, and urban planning that actually keeps up with reality. But right now, these cities are bursting at the seams. Every year, India produces over 9 million tons of plastic waste. And here's the kicker: only about 60% of that actually gets collected. It ends up drifting into rivers, clogging drains, piling in landfills, or blowing across fields and streets like confetti from a party no one wanted. And most of it is the worst kind, that single-use plastic. We're talking flimsy bags, food wrappers, disposable cups, and cutlery, stuff designed to be used once and tossed away. When I walk down the streets of Delhi, Chennai, or Ahmedabad, it honestly feels like a plastic storm has rolled through. Around food stalls, you'll see heaps of used plates and straws stacked in corners. In the countryside, plastic bags hang from bushes like strange, crinkly flags. And the thing about this waste is it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Some states have banned single-use plastic, and on paper that sounds like a solid step forward. But here's the reality: enforcement is weak. Factories still churn out the banned stuff, and street vendors keep using it because the alternatives cost too much. I've seen it firsthand. A biodegradable plate can cost 10 times more than a plastic one. Another huge challenge is mixed waste. In so many homes I've visited, plastic gets tossed in with food scraps, peels, and paper, all in the same bag. Even perfectly recyclable plastic ends up soaked in leftover food and goes straight to the dumps, completely unusable. And where does a lot of that waste go? Into rivers, lakes, and eventually the ocean. I've walked along beaches on the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea where the tide brings in more plastic than seashells. I've talked to fishing crews who say they sometimes pull in more plastic than fish. Scientists have even found microplastics in tap water, in sea salt, and inside the fish and shellfish sold at local markets. This isn't just a city problem, it's everywhere. In Himalayan villages, I've seen people burning plastic just to keep warm. In desert regions, cattle die after eating it. Even remote pilgrimage trails, once pristine and sacred, now crunch under my feet with a layer of candy wrappers and plastic bottles. Sure, there are some bright spots. I've visited startups turning plastic waste into bricks, building roads from shredded packaging, and even installing machines that convert plastic into fuel. But these are rare, isolated projects. From its snowy source high in the Himalayas to its sprawling delta at the Bay of Bengal, the Ganges cuts right through the heart of India. Over 400 million people live along its basin. It's one of the most densely populated river systems on Earth. And traveling along it, I've seen how the river becomes a dumping ground for almost everything: industrial chemicals, household garbage, biological waste, even the remains of religious offerings. One of the worst stretches I've visited is near Kanpur, a city once famous for leather tanning. Dozens of factories still line the riverbanks here, and for decades, untreated waste poured straight into the water. The water often has this dark, almost black tint, and the smell, it's like chemicals mixed with decay. Then there's Varanasi, the spiritual capital of India. Every day I watch pilgrims gather at the ghats to bathe, to scatter the ashes of loved ones, or to perform sacred rituals. But just downstream, sewage drains empty directly into the river. Boats glide past floating debris, plastic bottles, and wilted flower garlands from ceremonies. In some stretches, oxygen levels in the water are so low that fish simply can't survive. I've seen the government try to take this on. Programs like the Ganga Action Plan and Namami Gange came with huge budgets and big promises to clean the river. New treatment plants have gone up, and thousands of illegal drains have been flagged. But on the ground, progress feels uneven. Infrastructure can't keep up with the sheer demand, and enforcement is hit or miss. And that's the contradiction that's impossible to ignore. This river is a symbol of divine purity, yet at some stretches it's darker than a city sewer. I've met many who truly believe the Ganga is so sacred it can cleanse itself. But the science paints a different picture. Tests show dangerously high levels of bacteria and toxins in certain areas. To me, the paradox is clear: the Ganges is both sacred and sick. It carries thousands of years of history and myth, but also toxins and trash. Fixing it will take more than just cleanup drives. It's going to need a cultural shift, one where honoring the river means protecting it. Until that happens, the Ganga will keep flowing, carrying flowers, memories, dreams, and waste. I know the official numbers say many states in India are now open, defecation-free, but from what I've seen, the practice hasn't disappeared. It's not just happening in remote villages tucked deep in the countryside, it's also common on the edges of fast-growing cities. I've passed fields, railway tracks, riverbanks, even construction sites where people still go every day. And it's not always about whether a toilet exists, it's about whether it works. In areas with poor plumbing or no reliable water supply, even brand new toilets sit unused. Maintenance is another big problem. I've stepped into public toilets that were falling apart just months after opening, leaking taps, cracked tiles, overflowing tanks. Culture plays a role too. In some places, using open land is still seen as natural or even cleaner. I've met elders who genuinely believe nature is the best restroom, and they pass that belief down. And this isn't just a rural issue. In the slums of massive cities like Mumbai, Chennai, and Hyderabad, there often aren't enough toilets for everyone. In some neighborhoods, one toilet might serve more than 100 people. I've seen residents walk long distances sometimes through unsafe areas just to find a place for something as basic as going to the bathroom. I've been to districts that are absolute success stories, public restrooms that are spotless and well-maintained, even decorated with awareness murals. And then I'll travel just a few kilometers to find villages that haven't seen a government worker in months. One place might have solar-powered toilets, while the next doesn't even have the basics. Portable toilet setups do exist, but they're often poorly managed or break down quickly. In flood-prone areas, makeshift latrines get washed away, leaving behind both a sanitation crisis and an environmental mess. In dry regions, they're abandoned because there's simply no water to use them. Closing this toilet gap will take more than just building structures. It's going to require education, cultural conversations, real maintenance plans, steady clean water systems, and, most importantly, accountability. And until those pockets turn into a full nationwide wave, open defecation will remain a reality in a country sprinting toward modernity. When the drums go quiet and the crowds head home, that's when the real work begins. I've walked through streets after major festivals that look like plastic-covered war zones. Burnt fireworks, wilted flowers, broken decorations, piles of leftover food. In big cities, it can take days, sometimes weeks before things even start to look normal again. Temporary stalls collapse into heaps of synthetic material. Drain pipes clog with melted candle wax and waste from ritual offerings. Most of the cleanup falls on underpaid municipal workers or on volunteers who aren't paid at all. Trash bins overflow almost instantly. and there's rarely any real-time waste management in place during the events. Sorting the trash? Forget it. Even leftover offerings, flowers, coconuts, incense, often get dumped straight into rivers as part of tradition. Some cities are trying to change this. I've seen green festival guidelines rolled out, banning plastic, pushing biodegradable materials, even offering subsidies for eco-friendly idols. Many people still go for the cheaper, flashier stuff, even if it means way more waste. During festivals, enforcement is usually pretty relaxed, partly because faith and public sentiment are such sensitive topics here. But that's the paradox, isn't it? These celebrations are meant to honor the divine, yet they often end up hurting the very earth, air, and water we're asking blessings from. I'm not saying we should cancel traditions, not at all. Sustainability doesn't have to take away the joy of a festival. If anything, it can add to it. Because the joy isn't just in the celebration, it's in knowing we're leaving something better behind. India's festivals are unlike anything else on the planet. Pure color, sound, and energy. But every time I watch the last lamp go out or hear the final drum beat fade, I can't help but wonder who's going to clean up when the lights go out. In cities like Kolkata and Chennai, the sewage systems were built back when the population was under 2 million. Now, those same systems are expected to handle over 10 million people. It's like trying to drain an overflowing lake with a garden hose. During the rainy season, I've seen streets turn into rivers because the drainage lines are blocked or just too narrow. One of the biggest problems is that most of these drainage systems are still combined, meaning sewage and rainwater flow through the same pipes. So when it pours, the mix overloads everything and spills straight into public spaces. In places where people walk barefoot or kids are playing, you can imagine the health risks. And in many towns, there isn't even a proper sewer network. People rely on old septic tanks, open drains, or illegal hookups. These makeshift solutions clog up fast, leak into the ground, or break entirely. The problem isn't just the sheer volume, it's the lack of modern systems. A city this size needs smart water management, leak detection, real-time monitoring, and regular upkeep. But most places here don't have any of that. By then, the streets are flooded, businesses are down, and public health is already on the line. And then there's construction. Everywhere. But here's the thing. Most of them get added without any real upgrade to the sewage network. It's like stacking more and more floors on a building without ever reinforcing the foundation. The pressure keeps building, the system cracks, and breakdowns just become part of the routine. Every year, thousands of manholes are opened the old-fashioned way, by hand. I have watched workers climb down into those dark, outdated tunnels with barely any protective gear, risking their lives to clear blockages. And yet, in many cities, it's still one of the only parts of the maintenance system that actually functions. I know the solutions are out there: trenchless technology, separate storm drains, robotic cleaners, AI-driven monitoring. The tech exists, and right now, most city budgets are stretched so thin that just keeping basic services running feels like the priority. Until we modernize what's happening underground to match the skyscrapers and glass towers above, the streets are going to keep paying the price. In a lot of places, what's supposed to stay hidden below the surface is now spilling out right in front of us. In most Indian cities, trash is just trash. Everything ends up in the same bin, or more often, on the same street corner. I'm talking food scraps, plastic bags, broken electronics, diapers, paper, glass. It's all dumped together. This is one of the biggest reasons India's garbage crisis just keeps getting worse. You could build the most advanced recycling plant in the world, but if the waste coming in is contaminated, it's pointless. And that's exactly what happens every single day. Organic waste ruins recyclable plastic. Electronics get buried under rotting food. The idea of dry and wet waste has been introduced in a lot of cities. Posters, awareness drives, community meetings, they all try to push it one bin for organic waste, another for everything else. But adoption? Still low. I've even seen waste collectors toss it all back into a single truck, wiping out any effort people made at home. Without sorting waste at the source, recycling is almost impossible. Composting, too. When organic matter rots in landfills, it releases methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. And recyclables, if they aren't separated early, lose their value and just become landfill junk. I've seen informal waste pickers try to take on the job themselves. Armed with nothing but a hook and a sack, they dig through mountains of trash looking for anything they can sell. Plastic bottles, metal cans, cardboard. Many of them end up with cuts, infections, or long-term health problems from dealing with rotting waste and sharp debris. Some cities are trying to step up. Color-coded bins are popping up in certain areas. Door-to-door education drives have started in others. And in Indore, one of the cleanest cities in India, segregation rules are enforced strictly, and you can actually see the difference. What makes this so urgent is the sheer scale. India produces over 140 million tons of waste every year. But without clear instructions, reliable collection, and real community involvement, the whole thing collapses before it even begins. And here's the truth. The problem isn't really technological, it's behavioral. Without a shift in mindset, the garbage will keep flowing into the same heap day after day until it's too massive to ignore. Across India, billions have been poured into waste management, sanitation upgrades, and city beautification projects. On paper, the numbers look incredible. Smart city programs, nationwide cleanliness drives, upgraded fleets of garbage trucks. But when I actually walk the streets of many cities, the picture is completely different. Overflowing bins, broken down trucks, half-built toilet blocks, cleaning equipment still wrapped in plastic and collecting dust. So where's all that money going? From what I've seen, the issue isn't always a lack of funds. It's how those funds are used or misused. Contracts end up with companies that can't deliver. Procurement deals happen without fair bidding. Materials are bought at ridiculously inflated prices, only to sit unused in storage. Projects are launched with speeches and ribbon cuttings, but then stall out or disappear entirely. One story that stuck with me happened in a mid-sized city in Uttar Pradesh. On record, thousands of toilets had been built. But when survey teams went to check, they found nothing but empty plots. The toilets only existed on paper. In another case, a massive garbage collection contract was handed to a private company with zero waste management experience. The result? The sanitation workers, the backbone of the whole system, are often underpaid, undertrained, and sent out without basic safety gear. A lot of them are hired through informal channels, which means no real job protections. Meanwhile, I've seen budgets for awareness campaigns and ceremonial events that run into the millions. Corruption makes things even worse. The rules are there: waste segregation, plastic bans, illegal dumping penalties, but in reality, violators often get away with a small bribe or a political favor. Inspectors look the other way. Dumping zones quietly spread beyond their limits, poisoning the water and air for nearby communities. To be fair, there are some bright spots. Digital tools and e-governance platforms have started to make a difference in certain areas. Now, anyone can upload a photo of uncollected garbage or report an illegal dump through an app. But the follow-up? In too many cases, the report just disappears into the void, acknowledged but never actually acted on. And I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush. I've met hard-working officials, committed city planners, and engineers who genuinely want to improve things. But their efforts are buried under layers of red tape, tangled in local politics, and crushed by a system that still resists real accountability. Walk down almost any street in an Indian city with me and you'll see it's someone tossing a snack wrapper onto the ground just a few feet from a bin. Drivers casually rolling down their windows to flick garbage onto the road, as if it's one giant trash can. The question I keep asking myself isn't why it happens, it's why it still happens, even when everyone knows it's wrong. The truth is, this behavior has been normalized over generations. Public space for many is someone else's responsibility. Inside their homes, people keep everything spotless. But the moment they step outside, that sense of ownership disappears. Roads, parks, sidewalks, they're all treated as someone else's problem. There's also this deep social disconnect. In cities where cleaners, maids, and municipal workers handle the mess, there's no real pressure to change personal habits. Trash isn't seen as a shared responsibility. It's pushed into gutters, dumped into drains, or left in empty lots. Once it's cleared, people think it's gone. It just moves down the street, piles up somewhere else, and comes right back the next time it rains or during the next festival. Lack of bins is definitely part of the problem, but even in places where bins are right there, people often avoid using them. I've heard so many people say it's the government's job to clean up. Others shrug and say, well, everyone else is doing it. Pop culture doesn't help either. In older movies and TV shows, public spaces are rarely shown clean. Parks, train stations, sidewalks, they're almost always dusty, cluttered, chaotic. And when that's the image you grow up with, disorder starts to feel normal. There have been efforts to shift this mindset. I've seen walls plastered with "Don't spit, don't litter" posters, catchy slogans, awareness ads. But posters fade. Without consistent follow-through like actual fines, spotless public zones, and reliable disposal systems, the message just gets lost. Still, there are signs of hope. In some places, social pressure is starting to work. I've seen neighborhoods come together for cleanup drives, housing societies building their own compost pits. Even some railway stations have gone from filthy to famous, all because the locals decided to take pride in their space. Across India, I'm seeing a new generation step up where the system has failed. Students, techies, and local volunteers are leading cleanup drives, starting recycling programs, and using social media to rally massive support. In Pune and Bengaluru, I've visited college campuses with their own composting hubs. In Delhi and Hyderabad, I've met startups turning waste into building tiles, and even biofuel using AI-powered machines. There are apps now that let residents report illegal dumping, and in some places, drones are being used to monitor landfills. Indoor's transformation into one of the cleanest cities in the country is proof of what happens when citizens and technology work hand in hand. Hashtags like Clean My City are going viral, and for once, it's not just online noise, it's driving real change. The fight's not over, but I can feel it. The future's getting louder, cleaner, and a whole lot more hopeful. That's about it. Would you like to go to India? Write in the comments.